I had an organization that's made of large metropolises, and one phenomenon that we've observed is that we have some clusters of big metropolises coming together in what we now call the city regions, or the mega cities sometimes. Those are areas that have exceeded the scale of the city as we used to know it, and that are becoming some of the biggest magnets and centers of the global economy, while at the same time finding new challenges in managing these territories, the complexity that is involved in all these subdivisions, administrative divisions into municipalities or metropolitan municipalities, the variety of territories that are inside. Sometimes you have natural spaces or you have agriculture and others, and generally the idea that we've never had such a scale of human urban habitation in the past. And that requires new forms of governance, much more powerful treatment of data, and a different political framework that allows us to go beyond everyday politicking and everyday rivalries between territories to really create a new form of governance. Look, cities have always been magnets for people in search of opportunity, and I don't think we should criminalize, or we should think it is a mistake to have lots of people moving into cities. The problem is, do they do it out of choice or do they do it out of despair? And if it's the second, then this has two sides. One side is, of course, where they come from. How do we create the opportunities for people who want to stay to actually make dignified living in the areas where they come from? But for those who do want to enjoy the life in the big city, in the big city region, then what we have to create is, first of all, services that are at scale with the new challenges. Secondly, we have to create a new social contract with those who are already there, who may already be struggling, and those who arrive, and put behind this the right amount of funding. Cities are considered to be rich in national context, but the needs, the scale of the needs sometimes is underestimated. So we need to find from the international and from the national level the right understanding that the challenges posed by especially very rapid urbanization are very much underestimated. That is often the case, by the way, not only in South Africa, but in many other city regions in the world. We live in a world that is a world of nations, that's very strongly divided in nations. And in some aspects, we're going backwards to an even more kind of closed and national-oriented world. However, if you look at this world from outer space, what you see is a world of metropolises, of these lights that are hubs of globalization and of opportunity. I think there is a need for national authorities to understand that South Africa, France, the United States, no country will be successful if their metropolises are not successful, if they are not nodes in this globalization, if they are not also integrating all the diversity and all the conflicts that happen within their territory. Because if we don't do this, we may be heading to an era of massive urban upheaval. The levels of inequality that we are seeing in these metropolitan territories are horrendous and growing every day. And people are living totally deprived of opportunity next to some of the richest parts of this planet. That's unsustainable. If this new value of equity in the territory does not pervade all of metropolitan governance, then these city regions will become a liability rather than the asset that they are now for any nation in the world. In the session, we've been looking at the communication space from a local perspective and how it has been transformed by social media, by the collapse of some traditional media, in particular local media, and also how new ways of doing politics, sometimes more authoritarians, are becoming threats, are abusing these new opportunities offered by misinformation to completely alter the local environments. And it has been very clear that, in fact, cities, local governance is perhaps the best way to start to fight back, to roll back this misinformation and this increasingly authoritarian space. Because in cities, in the city space, there's an opportunity to directly connect with communities, directly connect with youth, to have a much better understanding of what's going on with the democratic functionment every day of a city. So we have seen in a session the opportunity to really start rolling back these terrible tendencies from the local level. But it requires political leadership, it requires professionalism from the journalists, and it requires the communities to become active in defending their own local democracy. Well, there is always the threat, there's always the fear that when politicians and political institutions engage in the communication space, it's either going to be censorship or propaganda. I would contend there's another way, which is connecting the everyday decisions that are taken at the space of politics, in particular in this case local politics, with the fears, the needs, the hopes of the communities, and then explaining why this happened, how this has happened. And that nexus is fundamental. It has been terribly altered by the transformation of the communication space, by the algorithms of some of the social media companies and others, and it needs to be reestablished for democracy to survive. This is a city that is, I would say, surprising in its contexts. Just driving around or seeing it when you're landing, it's the greenest, most beautiful place, and it doesn't even look like a city. Or it's an area which looks forgotten, a little bit devastated. It's huge skyscrapers and business, and next to it, people obviously struggling. I think it's a city of contrasts, but it is also, I come from Europe. It's a city that shows dynamism, which I envy.